Okay, I think I'm going to just start with the introduction here. Um, I think just looking at the names of who is on, I can tell that all of you know me, but just in case you forgot me, my name is Dorota Ulkowska. I'm the sales manager for Shing Digital. And with me is Christopher Herzog. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You got it. That's perfect
Okay. Okay, because with a name like Ulkowska, I'm very sensitive
for
to
now.
last name pronunciations. So, Christopher, would you like to introduce yourself?
Definitely. No, thank you for having me on. I'm a partner manager over on the Duo side of things. So Duo security, two-factor, multi-factor authentication. So here to just get the knowledge out and introduce you guys to some of our solutions.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. I want to remind everybody that what we're talking about today is multi-factor authentication and two-factor authentication. The whole goal of this webinar is a Q&A. So I have some questions for Christopher that I put together, but it is quite important that as you have questions, you ask them. You can do that just in the chat, or you can do that in the Q&A itself. So please post those questions. If you want to actually use your voice and ask the question, just raise your hand and we will unmute you. Any of those works. So just shoot those questions off and I will coordinate asking them to Christopher. So let's get going. The very first question, which for some of you, it might seem very obvious, but for some, not so much. What is multi-factor authentication versus two-factor authentication?
It's a great question. And honestly, it comes up more than you think. So happy to dive into the basics here. So two-factor authentication would be something that you see at your bank when you're kind of going after your money and taking out of your account. So you have your card in hand, you put it into the slot, and then you also have that second factor would be the actual PIN that you type in. So with that being said, multi-factor takes that a step further. Integrated within our solution, we actually are able to verify through a couple access policies that we have. So what will happen is if you have a two-factor enabled on, say, your Office 365 or Salesforce account or Windows logon solution, something that you're going to go ahead and do is receive a push when you type in your username and password to that device that you've paired to your account. And what that's going to do is the multi-factor part of that is it's going to allow us to either check the health of that device, so making sure that it's up to date, ready to go. Also on the operating system, the browser system as well. Then also there's abilities to take advantage of maybe checking the location of where you're logging in from. That's also a high priority for a lot of scammers out there that are logging in from, say, a different country, and your users are in Canada. And want to make sure that they're logging in. So other steps to verify, just going beyond the actual two-factor device, is where multi-factor comes into the equation.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So the next question that we have is, how does multi-factor authentication protect digital assets?
Yes, that's a great question too. So what happens is, say with your legacy two password and username, what's going to happen is when you type that in, that's going to give you and anybody else with those credentials the keys to your kingdom. So what multi-factor is going to do is we're going to add an extra layer of protection to those applications that you use on a day-to-day basis, and making that as easy as possible for you as an end user to go ahead and log into the app. So we go ahead and pair Duo on top of the, say in this case, Office 365 account. So what you do is enter in your username and password and go ahead and log in. And what I'll do is, if you don't mind, I can share a demonstration of that just to
Oh,
show.
totally. Absolutely. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and do that. So if you can see my screen here, again, Microsoft login page, I have my username credential. I'll go ahead and log in, type in my password, and what you're going to see is a friendly Duo prompt. In this case, I'm going to have the ability to log in via the actual application that exists on the phone. So if I hit my phone, I see it's me who's logging into Office 365. There's some telemetry information letting me know that this is in fact where I'm logging in from. And then I go ahead and hit approve. Now I'm good to go. In this case, it's asking me to trust the browser as well. It's an easy way to expedite the process, so you're not logging in and seeing the two-factor come up every single time you want to log in. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and trust that browser. So it's as simple as that. Really not a lot of leg lift to accomplish that. And it's going to be a lot easier for your end users to just log in and get back to work.
It is. It's actually very easy. I have it. I have it on my system. And you know what? Most of the time I think to myself, oh, here I go, have to press that green button again, which is obviously so easy. But there was one time, I have to tell you, there was one time over the weekend where it popped up and I'm like, wait, what now? It wasn't me. Let me tell you, I was very, very happy to have that because I right away, contacted our guys and it was looked after. But yeah, it was pretty sweet. Okay, we have questions coming in. What is Zero Trust and how does Duo work with it?
Yeah, so Zero Trust is a entire kind of frame of security. So where Duo ties into that is the user standpoint. So it's the workforce is what Cisco likes to call it. So it's more initially started in the beginning. So where you're locking down the users that are logging in, making sure that they are who they say they are, and then also checking the health of those devices when logging into those applications, making sure that they're up to date as far as the internet browser goes. If they have a 0 day on Chrome, you want to make sure that those updates that they're pushing out and those annoying reminders you're getting, your users are actually going ahead and updating that on their end. And the rest of Zero Trust, honestly, outside of a Duo Spectrum is something that Cisco can help with as well. But basically the first pillar of that is the workforce.
Okay, thank you. It says anonymous, but if anonymous would like more information, let me know. Okay, here we go. Another question. I use some pretty complex passwords. Do I still need MFA?
Yes, unfortunately you do. What happens is if those passwords are compromised, either through social engineering, which is pretty common when you'll see those phishing emails come about and it looks like it's coming from, I keep using Microsoft in this scenario, but yeah, if Microsoft's got a little logo, you're checking the URL, it looks rather similar, and you go ahead and enter in your username and password, that complicated one that you've, pride yourself on kind of remembering astonishingly, they're going to go ahead and have that at their grasp and in order to log in. So if it's not protected by multi-factor, that's really the only thing that's keeping them out.
So, and this is more of my question on top of this question, but So what is the big deal about having complex passwords then if they're not going to protect us that much?
That's a huge argument. If you want to have, and we definitely recommend it, I know we're biased, but with multi-factor authentication, you don't have to utilize those long passwords anymore. It's really just having that second factor device, something you can remember. It's one less thing to worry about when generating those super long passwords.
Okay, so I can have like 1, 2, 3, 4.
I mean,
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, we're gonna move on here. Okay.
I would recommend it, but yeah, I mean,
for everybody who has the password 1, 2, 3, 4 is currently changing it. Okay, from a privacy perspective, what else gets checked in addition to device or browser health?
Yes. So in our Duo editions, we have MFA, which is going to encompass everything that Duo can protect. When you jump into access, Duo access, you're going to get all the health policies that it can go ahead and remind and check and update for you. So you did mention the updating of the browser, updating of the operating system. There's another way to geofence is what we call it, but basically highlighting an area where your end users are logging in from in order to make sure that they are logging in from those locations. If not, you won't be able to log in. Again, that's something if you're traveling, you might want to update your IT admin to make sure that if you log in from Cancun over vacation, that they are able to let you inside the system. But besides the location aspect of it, there is a health application that can be downloaded on either device that your users would like to use. That can also give you more information around if a firewall is enabled, if that device is jailbroken or not. making sure that those end users BYOD devices are at the utmost top tier secured level in order to log into those apps.
Okay, thank you. Again, don't want to waste too much time here because this is such a quick event, but we have just recently was speaking to a client who again had a sign in from the same device from Calgary and then somewhere deep in Texas. So like within minutes. And it's like, really? So yeah, all very good points. We have a lot of questions. What are the authentication method options Duo offers for users to set up their MFA?
I love it. Yeah, this is a really great process for us because we love to give flexibility to our users because we know it is a kind of a hassle to get this stuff in place. So we want to make sure that you guys are able to use the application that exists on the phone, the demonstration that I just showed you. We're also able to allow SMS, text message passcodes, phone calls, hardware tokens, and then also the biometrics that exist on a device can also be enabled. So on my MacBook, I have a touch enabled to log in to our Duo SSO platform. That's something that you can go ahead and utilize as well. Just a sidebar note, SMS and phone calls, we don't not recommend them, but they are subject to SIM swapping, which is something that happens. Not a lot, but it is an attack vector. So we definitely recommend hardware tokens and the Duo application over the text and call option.
It's just incredible how far this goes. Okay, Gona, if let me know if you have further clarifications on that. The next question, Microsoft is making a big deal about going passwordless. How will this affect MFA and Duo?
Yes, so we are implementing passwordless solution on our SSO platform. Yeah, this is groundbreaking stuff. This will be offered, I believe it's in private preview now, but it should be GA to the general public in the next few months. This will be offered for our Duo SSO, which is basically a single pane of glass that'll host all of your cloud-based applications. So when you log into this platform, what'll happen is it will utilize the directory information that you have synced with Duo and allow us to verify that user's identity with a multi-factor device. So whether that be on your computer, the biometrics tab, whether it's the application that exists on your phone, you go ahead and hit approve, and there's no need to enter in those credentials anymore.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that. I won't lie to you.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay, next question. I have the Duo app installed on my phone, but I don't have my phone with me. Can I have the app installed on a second device? Second part, and or is there a secondary authentication mechanism if I cannot receive the push?
Yes. So we allow a single user account to have up to 100 authentication options. Now, I hope it doesn't get to that point, but you are able to do that either as a user yourself, if you have the option for a self-service portal. So there'll be just a little drop-down menu that you can add your own device yourself, or you can contact the IT administrator on your account, and he can go ahead and add that device as well to the account. But that's existing to another phone, tablet, hardware token, phone number. It's up to you.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. I always have my phone with me so far, so not an issue so far. Let me see here. How easily does MFA like Duo integrate with single sign-on?
Yes, so single sign-on solution is something that's built in. We have. If you have a third-party single sign-on solution that supports SAML, that's very easy for us to tie into as well. I know we have partnerships with Okta as well. People view us as competitors, but we're actually safer together as well. So that's something to consider if that's something in your environment today.
Okay, thank you. And I'm recognizing that I'm going through this really, really quickly, all the questions. So if there is clarification that you guys want, just please put it in the question answer or the chat. One more question. Does the Duo app work without internet Wi-Fi connection, like on airplane mode?
Yeah, so we do have an option for Windows logon. So that's, a logging into your computer that has an offline method. So there'll be a cache of 30 tokens or numbers, so 6-digit codes that are on that device. So you can go ahead and enter that in, say if you're on airplane mode to access your computer without the internet. That's something that's used a lot and really popular with our Windows logon solution.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Okay, if Cash's question, follow up to the Okta comment, why Duo versus Okta LastPass MFA, 1 login, RSA, 40 authentication, and so forth?
A lot of competitors.
That was like a lot. That was a blah.
No, I think, yeah, no, great question. Honestly, they're all in the MFA space as well. So another thing to realize is different I'd say opportunities for different vendors. But Duo's claim to fame is we are allowed and authorized to protect Windows logon. So a lot of those solutions can't do that. Other ways to go ahead and combat that question is, so Microsoft is free, right? Microsoft also does not protect Windows logon. The end user experience is iffy, if that, and it's a little bit more difficult to integrate outside of the Microsoft suite. So
What do you mean iffy? What, can you clarify that part?
it's just it's not as user friendly. I'd say they do have, I believe they have a push option. I have used it a few times. I've gotten false pushes a lot, not because somebody has my credentials. It's just it'll send multiple pushes in a row. It's kind of nerve-wracking
Okay.
for me, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it is a free solution, so they're not going to put the time and energy into it because it's not bringing any revenue. While it's our bread and butter, we're always evolving and trying to improve our solution. So that's a big argument. But with Okta having their own MFA, they're more or less like an IDP and then SSO as well. So IDP is something that we try to stay out of, username and password management tools. So having a solution like Okta and then piling on Duo on top of that is just more of a secure environment. So if somebody gains access to Okta system, God forbid they get hacked, they have your MFA and they also have your IDP, which is a big no-no. If you have Duo protecting that, there's at least another third party in the way for them to have to tackle before they gain access. So that's definitely a recommendation in our end.
Okay, thank you. On similar note, is the free Microsoft MFA good enough to protect my Office 365 account?
So if you're just utilizing Office 365, I would say it's completely up to you. The way we have success in our environments is if they're multi-cloud, if they have on-premise applications, if it's kind of an outside of the suite combination, if there's a VPN in the works that you'd like to layer in with Duo, that's something where we can have a conversation and be more than happy to test out our solution. But if they're just protecting Office 365 and that's it, which, I mean, some scenarios that's enough, but I guarantee there's probably some tools out there that you're not thinking about that you probably want to have MFA on as well.
Okay, thanks. I like all the questions, but this one I'm curious about as well. Could you please provide us with some technical advice or recommendations to control or avoid users or administrators bypassing the MFA systems?
Yes. So as far as administrators, and this would be in a Duo environment, because that's kind of what I know. Bypassing MFA is really hard to do if you're not an administrator. It's almost impossible. But if you do have administrators that are issuing bypass codes for users just to kind of mediate tickets that are coming in and they feel like they're exhausted, you may want to have a discussion with them on why they're issuing those, and then also maybe limiting their roles within Duo, because we do have different admin roles that have different, or not, I shouldn't say requirements, but ways to gain access to producing bypass codes in those scenarios. So if it's a technician issue, you can definitely minimize their leeway inside the system and be able to mitigate that. But yeah, I would need to kind of know more about the situation and why they're offering the bypass code so much.
So what one specific for me experience is there I have multiple clients who on an executive side want to avoid MFA. Everybody else should have MFA, but the executives don't like it, so
Mhm.
they don't want to deal with it, which of course poses a huge risk. So how I mean, this is not as much of a technical issue as a
Right.
behavior issue, but how do you guys approach that?
Yeah. Do they want to be cybersecurity insurance compliant? Do
Mhm.
they, want to get hacked? I guess it's more or less a security briefing conversation on maybe why
Yeah,
they don't really know the reason why they have MFA, and
yeah,
maybe they need to, I don't want to say scared into using it, but it's a huge risk to the
yeah,
company.
yeah,
And if they can make it as easy as possible using Duo, I feel like that's definitely a good avenue to go, since our user experience is super simple. That's
yeah.
something to go for.
Okay, thank you. So on that note, the next question, and they're just coming through, just so you know, cybersecurity insurance says that I need MFA, but they are vague on what I need MFA on. Can you give
Mhm.
us some guidance?
Yeah, of course. So a lot of cybersecurity vendors are getting into the space now, having vague understanding of the solutions behind this security mandate themselves. So what I've seen on my end is a lot of my customers are utilizing MFA on privileged admin accounts. First off, so those accounts that have, abilities to change settings, view private information, you can go ahead and lock down those specific user accounts automatically. That's something that Duo doesn't need to be rolled out all at once. This can be a gradual rollout. So once they lock down those private accounts and meet cyber liability insurance, I'm sure there's going to be an updated version after updated version after updated version of these things. So I would recommend having the discussion on what's keeping you from rolling it out entirely into your organization, but also knowing that having the ability to protect those administrators first off to just get you compliant is a good first step. And I know that having the ability to protect VPN is very important in cybersecurity insurance. Also, any suite environments. So you're talking about Microsoft, and then also your machine logins as well. So whether that's the Windows logon or an RDP server.
Okay, thank you. I've been asked by MFA software to verify myself based on an alphanumeric code given either via text or email. Does Duo use these?
So we can do text message. We do not do email. We can also produce those 6-digit codes on the hardware tokens we offer as well. So it's like a legacy physical token that you can see the digits on.
Mhm.
But yeah, as far as the email goes, we felt as a company that wasn't the most secure way to send an authentication through, because if the email wasn't protected by multi-factor, that's a big concern. So
Mhm.
I decided to opt out of that.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
What is adaptive multi-factor authentication?
So that kind of goes back to the conversation of the multi-factor part. So being adaptive would be if you had certain subset of users that you say were maybe contractors that were doing some work on your business and they needed access to certain applications, you could go ahead and add them into a certain security group with higher access policies. So that would be, maybe having the geofencing would be super important for those, since you know their location. Whether you can go ahead and lock down an IP address. So if they're not inside that IP, they wouldn't be able to access those sensitive applications. Also checking their BYOD devices they're bringing onto the network, because you don't have any visibility into what they're actually using. So
Mhm.
making sure that those devices are up to date as possible will definitely be a huge benefit.
Awesome. Are hardware tokens recommended over the phone apps?
So we recommend the phone app. Yeah, definitely the phone app, just because the ease of use and also the cost. It's free.
Mhm.
But hardware tokens are pretty much on the same level of security as the application itself. So we do work, we do have Duo branded tokens, but we do support the Yubico as well. And then other third-party vendors. Go6 is a vendor of ours as well too. So we're not just supplying our own tokens. We trust some others as well.
Okay, thank you. And I think I have time for like one more question. I literally have asked one of the many questions that I prepared because the questions have been like coming. So this is fantastic. Okay, Azure AD Premium is needed for Duo and it provides Microsoft App MFA. Why don't I just use the Microsoft MFA?
That's a great question. So it is required if you're going through, if you have an Azure tenant. There are two different other ways to integrate with Office 365 if you're going through that route. We do have a cloud-based solution that actually protects Microsoft through our SSO. That doesn't involve the P1 license that you need. And then we also have a physical, what we call a DAG, which can live on premise that you can go ahead and host yourself on a server, and then also be able to bypass that P1 license. So there are other options besides purchasing that. We do see the most, I guess, the fastest deployment off of having that Azure a tenant. So I would definitely recommend talking to your Microsoft rep on how many Azure P1 licenses you need, because I've heard rumblings in different areas of that's kind of flexible, but we definitely want to pass that back over to Microsoft to let you know how many licenses you need to actually have Duo inside the environment. But
okay, thank you very much. There's one more question,
sure.
but I think well, it's a quick one. What size of business would need Duo MFA? And I would presume that all of them do, but what would be the smallest that you would say?
So I would say, I mean, the smallest, it doesn't really scale on the importance of the business or what kind of information they have, right? So I'm going to say one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So everybody needs it. Okay. Well, if you have additional questions, yay! If you have additional questions, please send them my way. You all have my email address. I'll be making sure to answer them through Christopher or our gurus. I want to thank you guys again for joining us. And Christopher, thank you so much. You're like boom, boom, boom on it. I love it. And again, this went by really, really quickly. I will be sending all of you a copy of a recording of this webinar so that, again, you can share it with everybody you know, and please be on the lookout for the next webinar that we have in 2 weeks' time. Again, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great rest of the week.
Likewise. Thank you.